Hi, welcome back to Genesis Custom Sabers, and this is my first commissioned piece of 2015 that I've just completed. This is a lightsaber Claymore, something I wanted to design and do for a long time, but was finally prompted to do it after the Force Awakens trailer with the broad saber that everyone's talking about. Not something I would have designed, but I thought, well, I'll just design my own. And I had a client who wanted a medieval-ish fantasy saber that was a bit of a crossover to the Grey Wardens storyline in Dragon Age. So I've got a Grey Wardens themed Claymore lightsaber. I've got the Griffin logo etched in the cross-piece covered there on both sides, and this is a two-handed, duel-worthy saber that the client wanted something they could fight with, not just be cool. And you can hear a bit of rattling around there. That's the D-ring. The client wanted a D-ring, so I weathered one up to fit with the profile of the saber. I'm also going to include a CoverTech knob, which will use a same 832 threaded hole and come with its own screw, so the client could replace the D-ring with the CoverTech if he so chooses. So this saber was a bit of a challenge to design and build because I wanted something that was obviously the look and profile of a two-handed Claymore medieval sword, but also carried with it some real machined and high-end elements that spoke of a lightsaber. A lightsaber is a very refined, machined piece of equipment, and a sword is a more ancient, blunt. Well, I'm not going to say a blunt instrument because obviously a sword isn't a blunt instrument, but the hilt itself is designed with totally different craftsmanship and workmanship involved. So I wanted to make something that had a very old patina on the metal, but also had some real refined elements to it, and to incorporate both. So I've got machined balls that actually thread on to the cross piece, which I machined and built, and a sword style cross piece and grip. You can of course grip the saber in the grips or up here. The buttons are such that you can grip the saber and not trigger the buttons unless you really place your finger just right and really press. And you can see too that the buttons are recessed, so they're not even flush. So gripping the saber is not going to turn on the button, not going to activate it unless you put a good amount of pressure in there. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. I wanted to show some of the detail of the etching. Now this is probably some of the most detailed small etching I've done. Just to give you a reference, there's my thumb. So it's the smaller than, it's about the size of a thumbprint, the Griffin etched in the crosspiece there. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Like I said, it's etched on both sides, and I've wanted the metal to look a little bit aged, and you can see there's that buildup of carbon in the grooves. It's just subtle things that make it look like it's been cared for but well used. This video is going to serve as the instructions for the new owner. So I'm going to show the basic operation of this saber. You're going to pull the kill key. The saber boots up. This is a Crystal Focus version 7.5, so you've got the latest, greatest technology in this saber. And of course you've got your activation button on the other side, your auxiliary button. That's a polished brass, and this is a powder-coated blue. Now the saber's set up so that when you grip it, you're not going to trigger the buttons unless you really try to. Put your finger just right. You can press, the saber comes on. I'll show you what it looks like with a blade. Now, with a blade in, there's actually a hidden blade retention screw right there. Now, this is something that, because I didn't want to interfere with the grip so the saber could be used in dueling, it's a set screw, and you can put your Allen wrench, which is included in there, and you can tighten up the blade. You'll get clearance with the Allen key, and you can tighten it up. I wouldn't tighten it this way. That puts too much tension on the screw. I would tighten it this way, and then you get a nice tight blade in there. Now, I'm also going to include a stainless steel thumb screw that will fit that as well. Although when you use that, it's easy to get the blade in and out, but it interferes with the grip. So if you're at a con and you want to take the blade in and out for different pictures or whatever, you can use this. If you're going to be doing some heavy dueling or a big fight sequence with a buddy, you're going to want to use this style. But anyways, when the blade is in there, the blue button activates the saber. Right now you've got a red blade. Now, it's a heavier saber, so you need a hit on the outside. You can change the sensitivity, but actually the sensitivity that I used stock on this works really well. Of course, you've got your auxiliary button, So the blue button turns it on and off. You have to hold it on. Just a tap to turn it on, but you have to hold it to get it to turn off. So off protection. This is your auxiliary button for blaster block, for lockup. You can also hold the auxiliary button while you're tapping the activation button, and you get a color profile change. It goes through 10 different color profiles. So you can pick one that suits that sound font, and when you turn off the saber, it's going to remember that color choice for that sound font. If you want to switch to a different font, you just hold the auxiliary button.
Sound bank selection.
Rogue, Vader, Corriban,
Young Lang audio play.
Hero, Fates.
I like Fates for this one. You hold that button down, now I've selected Fates. Turn it on, I got a nice blue that I had set earlier. Of course, if I want to change that, I can hold this button down, switch to a purple, or a different purple. And I've got 10 color presets that, of course, the owner can change using the rice interface, which I'll show a little bit later. But that's how to operate that saber. That's how to, basically set it up the way you want it as you're fighting, and then when you're ready, you can, again, use the blade attention screw to remove the blade. Now, I don't permit any of these other screws to be accessed, otherwise you'll void the warranty. However, there is one exception. Inside this machined collar, there are 2 set screws that hold it in place. Those set screws can be removed to get access to the 2 bolts that hold on this crosspiece. Now, right now, it's really solid, really heavy. I mean, if I hold that D-ring down, you can just hear there's no vibration in there. It's ready to go. Now, over 5-6 years of dueling, that may actually eventually become loose. I kind of doubt that it will, but if it does, you can access that, so you can access those bolts and tighten them up. Just something that you might want to do maintenance-wise, like I said, 5 or 6 years from now. There's another hidden set screw there that holds the saber together, and there's a hidden set screw there that holds it's a pin that locks the battery in place so the battery doesn't slide around. You've got the very large 2 18650 cell battery in here for long life. I didn't point out too that the LED in this saber is a quad Cree blue strong. So it's a blue, actually it's a royal blue, green and red. So you have all the different color options of an RGB, but whenever you get to a blue color, it's going to be really strong, really heavy on the blue. Now, for taking the saber apart, here's what I permit. Right there's a joint. You can grip it tightly and unthread the bottom half of the pommel, and you get access to your crystal focus on a custom machine PVC chassis. You've got your recharge port here, you've got your rice port here, and everything is accessible. If you wanted to make changes to the sound fonts, you would put the kill key in like this, shutting off power to the saber. Doesn't turn on. You notice the little blue light's not blinking, and you can get the magic implement, which is a pencil. Using a pencil, you can just pop the SD card out. You can pull that out with those pliers, make changes on your computer if you want to put different sound fonts in from saberfont.com. Click it back in, make sure everything's working. You get a boot up sound. We're good to go. And then when you're ready, you just carefully slide this back on. All the wires are attached, most of the wires are attached underneath the crystal focus. So it's fairly durable. You don't want to fight, you never want to fight with it exposed like this. You always want to lock it in before. Now, one thing I will point out is there's a tiny set screw there. That loosening that off would allow you to then rotate this chassis just a hair in case your recharge port fails to line up with the hole designed for it. Right now, everything's perfect, but metal eventually wears down, and you might get a situation where that recharge port no longer lines up with the hole. Well, that's how to get it to line up again. So there's a way to kind of maintain this saber so that it's perfect for a very, very long time. So the saber I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like I said, it's one of the bigger sabers I've ever done, and that's how to operate it. If you want to click on a separate video that shows some of the things you can do by plugging in a rice cable to the rice port, just click here, and I'll provide a link to a video where I do some demonstrations of how to plug it into your computer and use the rice interface real-time internal configuration editor to make changes to the color profiles or the sensitivity of the saber or some other features like that. But that is how to operate this saber, and I hope the new owner is very pleased. So thanks again for watching.